I'm assuming we're live. And if we are, welcome to Model Railroading Live, the best model railroading channel in all of the universe. I'm your host tonight, Bill Graham. We're coming to you live from Staten Island, New York, and Human City Heath. Dave, Dan's Model Railroading. Can you guys hear me? Just give me a thumbs up or yes, we can. Because we're having a little technical difficulty. Technology is great when it works. Yes, Dan's Model Railroading says yes. So I am live, and it's March 1st, 2023. It's 9:03 p.m., and here we are on Model Railroading Live. Who's Big Bill talking to? I'm your host, Bill Graham, and tonight we have a special guest, father and son, actually. Dave Henderson and his son Shane will be on. We'll be talking to in a minute, but before we do that, I need to. Chris Lambert says I sound great. Well, thank you. And Chris Lambert is from San Diego, California, where it's always 72 and sunny. And just to give you guys a heads up, next week we're going to have Claude Christ. I guess that's how you pronounce his last name. He just reached 300 subscribers, and he's made some changes to his railroad. So we're going to have him on the show. And we're going to be talking to him about his layout and his 300 subs. See if we can get him to more 300 plus. And then on the 30th of March, Johnny's Train Talk Show will be back in full swing, where you can come in and be live and be a part of the talk and discussion on trains, model trains, real trains. If you have any problems with your trains, you can join in, and there's always someone who's in the site or who will in the Q&A who will answer anything pertaining to trains. So that's going to be March 30th. Johnny's Train Talk Show will be back at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then on what date is that? On the 15th, Claude Christ is going to be on, and then later in April, we're going to have the final program with Bill Baronic, the track planner, in regards, I believe, to operations and so forth. Once again, this show is sponsored by Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago. He's always good to have around. Always get a free shipment of sausage, case of it. Don't know what to do with all of it and stuff like that, but it's sponsored by Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago. So tonight's guest is Dave Henderson and his son Sean, and they have an HO combined N gauge railroad, and they'll explain that to you. I saw his Facebook page and was totally amazed at what they have built so far. And like I said the last time I was on, they've been in the model railroading. They've never I think this is their first attempt at building a model railroad. So when you see it, it's very impressive. Okay. So we got them in the green room, and we're going to bring them out, and we're going to start this. We're going to rock and roll on this thing here. All right. So if everything is working accordingly and the hamster hasn't died on the wheel, we'll have them come in. And here they are, David Henderson. Dave, raise your hand so we know which one you are. Dave and his son, Sean. Father and son duo. And that is the layout that they have so far built. And Dave, welcome to the show. Sean as well, welcome.
Well, thank you, Bill, for inviting us on your show.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. My honor, actually. And just before we start, I just want to say hello to the gentlemen and ladies that are in the Q&A. Dave Henderson. I'm telling you, man, I'm losing my mind. Let's see, we got Heath from Human City Junction, Dan's Model Railroading, Dave at BNSF N-Scale, Chris Lambert. Let's see who else. That's it for now. That's this. They're coming in. They're coming in. So, Dave and Sean, what was the genesis of this railroad? When was it both of you sitting down to dinner and saying,
Well, we were going to have to use the basement storage area for a different project that my son and I didn't really want to do. We decided.
Wait a minute. What was this, building a nuclear bomb? And someone was like, this could really be dangerous.
We were going to have to use it to store some family furniture that was going to be taken out of a storage unit. And it was a lot of heavy stuff. And my son decided, we don't want to put this down into the basement. Why don't we build a railroad?
Yeah. So, I never liked those relatives anyway. They never gave me money for my birthday. So why should we? So
we bickered a little bit, and we came up with I just wanted to use N gauge, but he wanted to HO because HO is larger, kind of you can get a lot more things. So I still wanted the N gauge. So the N gauge is the back part of the seam. So there's 90 feet of N gauge track. It's 2 loops. There are 2 reverse loops, and there's 2 crossover sections.
Okay, and it's in the back where that viaduct is?
Yes, it's on the behind. There's a plywood backdrop that's part of the blue sky in the back, and right. There's 2 feet behind there.
Right. Oh, just hold that thought. John, can you make Dave and Sean bigger? Because you got me full screen, and I know I'm very handsome, but the guys, they see me every other week and stuff. Well, anyway, go ahead, Dave. There's 2. There we go. So that's maybe a little better. So there's plywood behind that, and what is there any access to the back of that? Is that where you're going to have a staging yard?
Yes, we're going to stage trains back there. So there's both N gauge and HO gauge back there.
Right.
So there's 90 feet of N gauge, and there's 180 feet of HO gauge. There's 2 reverse loops. There's 1 reverse loop on the lower level and a reverse loop on the high level. And they cross over in the center of town. And we wanted to model a Pennsylvania river valley town. We knew that we wanted to, where I grew up near Pittsburgh, you'd see trains coming through, passing through. You'd see them coming. You'd see them leave. You never saw where they went. You never saw where they came from.
Right.
And that kind of fit our limited space. And we also wanted the lower level and the high level to be connected. So there's 2 ramps. They're at a 2.2% grade.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't laid any track yet. I knew I wasn't quite sure how I was going to cut out and carve the foam to fit all the structure that I needed to hide. So rather than thinking about track and the foam at the same time, I figure I'd get the foam out of the way. So the foam all lifts off. There's about 50 sections that lift off. And they lift off in about 20 minutes, and they go back on in 20 minutes. So when we complete the scenery and add the buildings, we can take that all off and set it on a workbench and work on the foam sections to do the scenery offline rather than having to climb up on the railroad. And because I can't really get access to it, I built a box on each side of the long viaduct. That's the east side of town, that's the west side of town, and I built a ladder platform that sits across the front part of the table so I can get it past the control panel, and I can climb up and I can get back there and remove the foam, and if I had to, if a train got stuck in a tunnel, I could lift the tunnel off and get everything off and put everything back together.
Now, Sean, you came up with the design of the track plan?
Yeah, I wanted to do something that was I hadn't seen before, and what it was is when I found out about DCC, since the last train that I'd ever used was the old style, so it was a lot more complicated to make reverse loops. And when I found out about the switch system, I kind of sat down. I'm like, well, when you see the big train tables at the conventions now, it'll be like a long straight, like a reverse loop, and then it goes back a long reverse loop. And I was like, well, how can we make that work in the small section of small area that we're working with? And I'd come up with doing the 2 levels, and just thought, well, do the exact same thing. I just fold it in on itself.
Right. So what did you freelance the drawing, or did you use a software program to design the trackage?
We did it the old-fashioned way. I cut out sections of. I wanted to use a 30-inch radius for the HO and a 19-inch radius for the end gauge, so I could run a larger locomotive.
Right.
And then I, just put things down on a piece of paper and tried to get everything to fit.
Right. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, though, I am making a 3D model of it. So with the track sensors and everything that we are installing, you can actually follow the trains on a 3D representation on a monitor that we plan on installing above the train table.
Right. Do you have? Does your work involve electronics? Is that, or is this
just a hobby of mine?
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. I have to say, very, very good. Now, you wanted to do a Pennsylvania. It's going to be. Is it going to be basically a Pennsylvania railroad?
Well, there's some really cool locomotives on the New York Central from the 30s.
So there's going to be steam.
It'll be. So we're doing the time frame between 1935 and the early 50s.
So you're going to have a transition period of diesel and steam.
Yeah.
Right. And do you have the equipment, the engines already, or is that something that's?
Oh, I have all but one. I'm looking, the Broadway Limited's Hudson. I think it's the Commodore Vanderbilt.
Right.
Should be coming this sometime in April here, hopefully.
Okay. So now, again, going back to the genesis of this whole thing, you, Dave, got started in model railroading when you were obviously younger, a young man, and you had built the layout prior to this one, or is this your first major?
When I was 8 years old, my dad set up plywood in the basement, and I had an American Flyer, so I set that up on the plywood. And when Sean was little, he was able to play with the American Flyer, but it was just on the carpet.
Right.
And then my dad was into model railroading. He'd bring home the the model railroader magazines, and I remember looking through there were some great railroads over history.
Yes.
Allen's infamous Defeated and Gory and Defeated.
Yeah.
Looking at that, and I've always wanted to do some, build a railroad, and being retired, and I'm fortunate to have enough money and time now to actually be able to do this.
Yeah, that's the best thing when it's snowing and raining outside. And you're snug as a bug in a rug down in that basement working on things. You're like,
I'm not one for sitting, watching television. I can't sit.
I hear you.
I'd rather keep myself busy.
There's only so much Andy Griffith you could watch.
Yeah.
There's only so much, you know. And Hallmark, Hallmark Channel. My wife loves to watch the mystery. As soon as it's on, I tell her in the opening intro, I said, I can tell you who the murderer is. She goes, no, it's not him. I said, yeah, it's him. And she'll come in and say, you know who it was that? I said, yeah, I know, that guy. And she said, yeah, how'd you know? I said, because they write themselves. But anyway, yeah, no, you're right. It does absolutely fill a gap in the time frame, and it keeps your mind alive. They just recently had an article out. I don't know where it was. I don't think it was a major train magazine, or it was more of an opinion poll. They said that older men who do model railroading, they have the onset of dementia is like really put off because you're using your brain, you know.
Well, there's lots of problem solving, as you know, when you're trying to figure out how to accomplish what you want to do. And your first plan might not work, and you might have to adjust your plan. And I know when I go start laying track and doing wiring, I haven't soldered anything in 30 years. I'm going to have a lot of soldering to do.
Yeah. It'll come back. As soon as you mess up the first one, you'll be like, oh, wait, I know how to do this. And Sean, are you married, Sean?
No.
Well, this is a great icebreaker. I'll tell you. They may think you're a little nerdy, but they'll always know where you are. They always will know where you are.
So, I work as a deckhand, so it's either I'm doing something like this or I'm on a boat. So,
what, do you work on the tugs?
No, I'm just working down at the Gateway Clipper in Pittsburgh right now.
Okay. What is it? SIU, Siemens International?
No, it's not. It's not a union job.
Oh, okay. Okay. My brother used to work. My brother used to be a merchant marine.
Yeah, I'm looking at getting into it. That's why I'm working where I'm at.
I said to my brother once, he no longer does it, but when he used to do it, I said, if the ship should go down, what is the first thing you grab, Brian? And he says, payroll. I said, why is that? He says, because if you go overboard in a life raft and you don't have your payroll paper with you, where you sign on and off, he says they give you what's known as hazard. It's a flat rate, he said. But if you have your time thing where you can write it in, they pay you time and a half extra hazardous money. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
So you just keep your payroll in your Gumby suit then.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. He loved it. He loved it. He loved it. He saw the world and everything. So, and then he worked on tugboats in Alaska. And then he came back and he worked in the New York Harbor. Then he got married, retired, and moved to upstate New York, up to Vermont. Enough of my family history here. Human City Junction wants to know, what are those strange panels in the front?
Oh, that's a control panel. So the Digitrax equipment has occupancy detection. So that is an outline of the HO low level. So it'll have occupancy detection LEDs on it. And then the panel below is the switches for that section.
Okay, great.
And there's one for the high level. It's just in the camera view. And then the end gauge is the blue at the far end.
And what are the middle and the one to the?
Because I think, with all the Digitrax equipment for both the end gauge and the HO, there's probably 20 different items that are going to be plugged into electrical outlets. And right. I didn't want to be climbing under the table and connecting up extension cords every time I run it. So this is the 110 electrical distribution panel. So there's two 20 amp circuits that apply this. And like right now, I did purchase the BOI Thunder. Am I allowed to operate that?
Yes, you are. By all means, please do.
Okay. So this is the BOI Thunder system, which is kind of cool. And Sean can push the big red button that says "Do not push."
Sweet. Sweet. Human City Junction Heath says, will you please make my control panels for my layout? I'm assuming those are all handmade.
Yes, it's made out of plywood. And when I first, after gluing up 1/2-inch plywood, the wood glues, even though you clamp it, they take a long time to dry.
Yes.
They warped it. So I used a super glue.
Okay.
That I purchased at the local radio controlled airplane shop.
Okay.
And that didn't warp the plywood. And so these panels are double sections. So they have a inner panel that's recessed, so it sits down in. Sean came up with the hinges, from I think they're European hinges that are
Right.
pressed in, which is just drilling a hole. And the panel can be locked, so after I have the wiring done, people can't lift it up. So there's about 25 outlets underneath the table. So there's outlets for N gauge, outlets for HO gauge. We have a LED panel light. Sean wanted this.
Yeah.
So we have like lights for, we have a lot of woodland scenic lighting features for like street lamps. That's how we're going to light the houses. So I can have lights for on the inside of a building during the day, and then night lights for, houses at night. I even added a switch. Someone said some of the Digitrax equipment can get hot. You may have to run a fan on it. So I even have a circuit for a fan.
Okay, you guys, I don't know about the guys in the out there in the Q&A, live Q&A, but I have to say I am duly impressed.
One of the things I forgot was when you turn on the BO Thunder, it starts to cycle through. So we can shut that down.
Oh man, it's all Human City Junction Heath again says all that and no running trains yet. Apparently, I started on the wrong part of the layout.
Well, I remember when I built my dad's N-gauge coffee table layout. I planned a track. I got the track running, but we never quite finished the wiring, the control panel, and it was just a mess. We had wires like stacked on a shelf or box underneath, and it was like a rat's nest. So I know that I wanted to be prepared and have a place for things, just to keep track of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to climb under the table and plug stuff in.
Yeah, no, you know what this is? This is, to me, this is like you guys have built, this is a representation of you guys being like old-time model railroaders who have built several layouts prior, each one improved on the next one, and then improved on the next one. And this is like the final rendition of what you always wanted to do on the 7 previous layouts, but have included on this and how it came out. So you guys really are a step ahead because you've kind of like, took everything into planning, everything. Like what would you, if you had to ultimately do your dream layout, and you guys really put it together. Did you have did you guys have really sit down and have skull sessions about this and went back?
Oh yes.
I'm pretty sure we argued about the layout a good 15 times before we even decided on the final just the track layout, not even how we were going to build the scenery itself.
Right. Why was the
Good to
emphasis?
have-
Go ahead. I'm
It
sorry.
was good to have my son run, because I wouldn't have done all this. I would have done something quick and easy.
Right.
And I'm kind of glad that he pushed the boundaries, and he didn't know how to do everything, but he challenged me to come up with a way to figure out how to do it.
And a lot of research.
Yeah,
That's
There
also
was a lot of. I think I have 400 hours in engineering, just trying to figure out how I was going to do, what you're looking at here.
right. I believe it, and the research of it is that much more enjoyable because now you have rhyme to reason as to why you want to do what you want to do, and especially like on a Pennsylvania, you have to. It's selective compression now, so you want to get 50 pounds of bologna into a 10-pound sack, but you got to realize you got to make compromises someplace. Heath from Human City Junction wants to know, do you guys have a website, YouTube, or any other social media other than Facebook?
I told my son he can come up with a YouTube channel while I'm doing wiring.
Yeah, I still haven't actually sat down and started doing it yet, but
Uh-huh.
I'm looking into actually doing it so you can start posting videos of what he's doing.
Yeah, you guys would really have a strong following with this type of layout, really. So tell me, underneath the viaduct that's right in front of you, we were talking earlier about you have the resin water that.
Yes, I'm trying to think of the brand that we use. K-resin. We use K-resin. It was their thick pour and
Deep pour.
And the minimum depth you can pour is 1/2 inch. And I poured it in 2 1/2-inch layers, after, within a 4-hour period. But for the first one, we failed. I poured it 3/4 inch. I poured the resin over small rocks, and they off-gassed. So the off-gassing, had bubbles in the resin. And then I used a propane torches, what they do to help chase bubbles out, and that helped. But I got it too hot, and it cracked.
Oh,
So it all had to be scrapped. But fortunately, the river section here is inserted from underneath the table.
so you've built the resin stream first on a separate piece of.
Yes, and then it inserts in from underneath.
Oh,
So it can be when we're wiring, if I can't get to a bridge, or I can drop that out. It's easy. I'm not going to run any wires underneath the river section. I'm going to go around it, so we can always drop that out. So the bridge pylons are in the river base, and we made a plywood box and used plaster cloth and sculpt a mold to seal it off. I also, the first resin I poured, I didn't use silicone, and I just counted on the glue between and resin it was a mess. Resin was pouring on the tool shed floor. I had a real mess. For the second attempt, I almost didn't do it. My son encouraged me, and I used one of the acrylic paints that had a high flow to dye the resin.
right.
And that worked out pretty good.
And so you can drop it down and remove it.
Right, and it's in 2 sections. And so they're probably approaching 40 pounds a piece.
Really?
So
Man, I tell you, that's Crooked River and Eastern Railroad says a beautiful panel. And hello to you, Crooked River and Eastern Railroad. Again, so Sean, in your endeavor in this, in designing the track plan and putting it on uh, cardboard and everything, and doing it. What was the biggest challenge that you had doing that?
Well, it was trying to figure out, like, I didn't know all the limitations of the railroad and what you can actually achieve. And then trying to figure out, like, how much height we needed and some other different, like, concessions as to, like, how I was going to be able to fit it all into the small section. And with him, he was helping me because we're trying to figure out the turn radiuses and how to, like, set it up that we don't run out of room behind the panel back there. It was
we probably had I probably laid things out like 5 times before we came up with something that would work.
Right.
So we looked at a lot of track plans, but we didn't see anything that was getting us the things that we wanted.
Right.
We weren't going to get everything on Sean's checklist.
Right.
Sean he wanted a riverfront town. He wanted a riverfront park.
It took a lot of haggling to fit everything.
But if we put the town at the same level that the river is, it's hidden behind the viaduct and you can't see any of the buildings.
Right.
So I Googled I thought, well, maybe if I can get a steep grade up into the town, from the town down to the river, I would be able to lift the town up high enough that you'd see it and it wouldn't be hidden by the viaduct. So I Googled what's the steepest street in the continental United States. It was Canton Avenue, and it's in Pittsburgh. It had a 37% grade.
Whoa.
They have bicycle climbs there.
Stay away from that road in the winter if you're ever in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yes.
Down it, and you can't stop.
So so we have a Canton Avenue going down to the riverfront, even though the one in Pittsburgh doesn't go down to the riverfront, but it gets us up high off the table where we can see the bridges. Right. And then we wanted to, I'm going to have to make a lot of trees. So I wanted to keep the number of trees I had to do. So we have roads, and the roads serpentine up the slopes on each side. So, we're going to have mill houses on the west side of town. We're going to have some old Victorian houses on the east side of town. Well, a graveyard. We had to have a graveyard.
Sure.
Sean even wanted a scene from the Evil Dead.
Okay.
Log cabin in the woods, and going over a bridge. So we'll have an Evil Dead scene from the.
Why not?
We even got a Where's Waldo to put on there. So.
Oh, that's interesting. That's always good.
So we've had a lot of fun coming up with ideas and things to add to it. And I have when I went into this, you're like earlier you said, what are you getting into? And so I Googled how much time people spend on something like this. So it's the number was 5,000 hours for this size of space, and I'm at 3,000 hours, and I surely have another 2,000 hours left.
Yeah, but who's counting?
Yeah,
who's counting? We're having fun. So what kind of track are you going to be laying?
I'm using code 83 for the end gauge. I wanted it to be a little more bulletproof.
Right.
Using code 100 for the HO.
Right. And what is it going to be? Payco or Atlas?
Atlas.
Atlas. Okay.
I'm using all number 8 turnouts.
Okay. All right. So you're going to have a sweeping turnouts, long turnouts.
Yeah.
Wow. John Banachek says, nice looking layout. Grandpa Rails is in the house. How you doing? McCarville Studios is in the house. Low. And John Banachek says, you looked up the hours and you still did it.
Well, I looked up the hours after I was
right after you were all the way through it, basically. You said, well, in for a penny, in for a dollar.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Well, I said earlier when we were off air talking, did it come to a part when you were building this and you stepped away and looked at it and said, what did I get myself into? This is a little maybe overwhelming. And
Well, when I was young, we put when I was 13, we put 1,000 square foot addition onto our home. We did everything ourselves. So I helped my father put in the concrete floor in the basement. We didn't do the block wall, but we did all the framing. So at 13, 14, I wired this 1,000 square foot addition myself. My dad traveled. He worked for PPG Industries. So he'd tell me what he wanted me to do when, during the summer vacation. That's what I did.
Right.
And so I learned to, so I knew, going into projects, things are a lot of work. And I knew that this was going to be a lot of work. I'm hoping that laying the track, I'm thinking I may be at this for, I don't know, a year. I don't know how long that much track takes to lay.
Yeah, since you've kind of like got it, instead of it being just a regular prairie plywood with nothing on it, it might be a little. You might have a better advantage than you would if you didn't have the foam down, because now you know where you can go and what will work on a curve. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Well, I know exactly where the track's going to go.
Right.
We'll have the cardboard patterns down, and I'm going to use like an awl to mark the pattern through the into the homicide, so I can just the center of the track on the homicide.
So that basically is built on what, 1x3s, and then
it's all 2x4 construction.
Oh, you went heavy duty.
Yeah, I can climb up and walk around. This control panel, I can stand in it.
Really? Man, that's then on top of that, what do you have, 1/2-inch plywood?
It's a 1/2-inch plywood deck with a 1/2-inch homicide.
And then you have the foam on top of that.
Right.
The pink foam. All right. Is it hard to get homicide where you guys are?
No, we always had it.
Yeah. No, because in some parts of the country, a lot of these guys, they homicide, like on the West Coast, is very, very hard to get. So they usually go with the pink foam, 2-inch, 1-inch.
Oh, to put the track on.
Yeah. I've always used homicide because it's available in New York here.
My experience with foam, you'd almost have to glue the track down.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. John Banachek says, wow, that is sturdy. That's because they're going to park the F-154 truck on it. So when it's snowing outside, because you're from Ohio, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so they get nasty winters in Ohio and stuff. So that's good. I do have to say that this you're the only other layout that I've seen that that has 2-gauge railroad. There's the Nearly Historical Railroad where they have standard and then narrow gauge running on this tremendous, takes up the whole. There's a house that was a siding that was built, come down from downstairs, the middle, and they has a dual gauge, standard gauge, and if you get a chance, look up his YouTube channel, the Nearly Historical Layout.
Okay.
But who have you guys been? Let's see. Tom Priest asked Dave about the site opening behind the end of the mountain. Lots going on the roof.
Oh, yes. This was my neighbor's idea.
Really?
Actually, Tom's idea.
Is Tom your neighbor?
Yes.
Ah. Well, welcome, Tom.
I guess you could see my hand.
Yes.
And Tom suggested that idea because we should be able, he thought we'd be able to get some pretty cool pictures, looking across the river valley, from that angle.
Yeah. Nice access panel. Plus, if anything should break down, you'd be able to easily get to it.
Oh, it allows us to put Waldo in the cemetery.
Yes. What is the width going across to the back viaduct?
Oh, okay. From here to there, that's about 6 feet.
And how about have you got access panels back there in case you got to?
Yeah, those panels all come down, but to do the track, I'm going to just climb under the table, and I have about 11-inch wide opening for me to squeeze up and do all that work. I can't gain any weight.
Yeah, that's right. You can't. Let's see. There's a question that was up that I didn't get a chance to. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Robert Holloman says, my experience in track laying is you should always glue the track down. Otherwise, the nails have a tendency to bend and or break the ties.
Okay. What glue would he recommend?
Robert, what glue would you recommend? Well, he'll answer in a few minutes. He's writing all the way from Oregon.
Okay.
Robert's going to be building Elmer's glue, he says, which is a good choice because Elmer's glue is a water soluble. Okay. So if you ever need to take it off, what you do is you take a washcloth, a hot washcloth, lay it down, put it down on the track, let it soak up, and then take a spatula and just ease under. This way you save the track and not destroy it. I would say the same thing with your switches. When you lay your switches down, I would free float them. I wouldn't glue them.
Okay.
Because switches are a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if you I free floated mine, I would just put it down with a couple of nails.
Okay.
To hold it down. And then when I took my layout down, I was able to save practically 99.9% of all my switches.
Okay.
So when I build the next layout, I'll have switches that I may have to purchase a few, but I won't be indebted, where I have to go out and buy them.
I think I have $400 in switches.
Oh yeah, you'll probably have more, and stuff. But again, it's do you use one specific hobby shop or you just use
most of the local hobby shops that supply railroad stuff have disappeared. So everything I'm thankful for the internet.
All of us.
I've purchased about 90% of the stuff has been purchased on the internet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Robert Holloman's from Washington State, not Oregon. And John Benek says that you should using acrylic chalk, clear is good.
Oh, for
gluing the track down.
Oh, okay. The
acrylic caulk. And
who makes it?
Who makes it? You go in any clear caulk.
We use it at work.
It's what's the name of the company? I have it inside. I'd get up and get it, but I would be forever because
I can find out from work.
Oh, or you can send me a.
Yes, absolutely. I'll send you a photograph of it. Robert Holman says he builds his turnouts using the fast track fixtures. He builds his own switches. DAP is called DAP. The product is DAP.
Okay.
And stuff, but he builds his own switches.
That's commendable. That's a lot. I think I wanted to get done before I got.
It's just another aspect of what's interesting and what that's the way to bulletproof your what do you call it. And if you get it from Fast Tracks, they're a Canadian company. You're buying the die and tool set, and it's once you do one, then it becomes, it's repetitious, and you get into the flow, and you have everything at your disposal on the workbench. It goes along pretty well, and you're in control of what your switches, can do and what you cannot do, and it makes the track, makes you bulletproof. It's Robert says it's cheaper if you have more than about 15 turnouts to make. And like I said, if you go through Fast Tracks, they have the whole kit. They have curve switches, straight switches. I think they go down to number 5 switches all the way up to 8, depending on what you want to do. But again, and they work, and John Banachek says, and they work much smoother.
Okay.
But that's another source of the hobby that, isn't, what I mean, that you're devoting the time to. Like John, who directs this show, he builds them for people if they buy them off him. So he did a big order last year or the year before, and he just pre-cut and did everything, and then just assembled it, And it's not that hard, but if it's something you want to do, great. But I'm like you. I wanted to get the switches, I wanted to get them down, and I wanted to run.
We've been dreaming about running trains now for 2 years.
Well, I know I looked into doing a bunch of stuff using an Arduino for a little bit.
Yes.
I'm kind of looking at maybe using that to operate some lights, at least in the city.
Yeah. For self-promotion, I think you should go on our channel, Model Railroading Live. About 2-3 years ago, we did a whole series on the Arduino and what it can do and what it cannot do and what is capable of doing. It was like a whole year, a weekly show on the Arduino. And they even in the show, they asked people to go out and purchase the Arduino. They sent them the link to where they could get it, and then they would build it on the show live, and then you guys would do it by step. Again, that's another facet of the hobby. If you want to go down the rabbit hole, that's where you can go. You can do the computer with the where you manufacture an operating session on it out of the computer and stuff. Let's see. John Banachek says, "Wow, Robert, I get a headache just thinking of working with all that track." Yeah, John Banachek says, "Fast Track and Oak Hills both have jigs. I did that in N scale for a friend, about 50 turnouts in all." Robert says, "Yeah, that gives me a headache just thinking about it."
Yeah.
Again, you'll see there's many aspects of the hobby that guys get immersed in. A lot of guys who are in computers, they love automating their whole layout that way and, using it to that adventure.
Hand-laid track, that's really realistic looking.
Well, there was a guy that was on our show I forget his name, so I apologize if you know who I'm talking about out there. But he came out and said that he was laying all the track for this layout he was building. So the next time he had an update, he laid about 75 feet of it, and then in the middle of his video, he says, "I now realized how hard this is. So the rest of this is going to be laid with pre-formed flex track." Because it's a labor of love, but you really got to be. That's why I was asking you before in regards to what you saw you built. Did you, say to yourself, "Wow, this is really a lot and overwhelming," and you got to take a step back and take a break from it, and stuff. Bernard C says Arduino has been updating a lot.
Yeah, they have a bunch of new stuff out there for it now.
Yeah. Again, once the DCC came out, it came out before there was more software. Now the software is catching up to it. like Digitrax, NCE. They're all coming out with stuff that you can apply to it. It makes it really, really good. Is this train going to be like a rail fanning, where you watch the trains go around, or are you going to incorporate operations?
We will. We can. We're going to be able to do. Reverse. I was going to run different trains, so I was thinking that I should be able to run like 10 trains at one time. With stuff parked in the back. Taking something around back, stopping it, bringing something else. And we're not operating it like a real railroad.
Right.
We don't have any industries with sidings.
Okay.
We're a passenger terminal. I think.
We have a passenger terminal, and that's it.
All right. We, as our friend Bill, the track planner, always says, because he designs layouts, he says that you should always envision your layout as being part of a major railroad in real life, where trains are coming from and going to, because it adds the more realism to it. And have fun with it. Absolutely have fun. Like on my layout, most of my scenics and industries were named after relatives that I knew. And anybody that was willing to donate money to the layout always got an honorary spot. So I always encourage people to donate so they'd get a tiny real estate of, even if it's $1,
Give them a park bench, right?
Yeah. Name a bar after them, the Blarney Roads and stuff. So here's the important question I think needs to be asked. Are you guys having fun?
Yes. I like working with my hands. I like keeping busy. And this has brought my son and I closer together. We didn't have a whole lot of common interests, till we undertook this.
Right. No, I understand. Has it really has bonded you closer together?
Yes.
That's good. That's the best thing out of the whole thing. Father, and trust me, Sean, you'll greatly appreciate it. You'll greatly appreciate the time you spend with Dad. Mark, go ahead.
And we wouldn't have the complexity or the coolness. I would have done something a whole lot less involved.
Right. A whole more generic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sean, remember Mark Twain said when I was 20, I thought my father was really dumb. But when I turned 21, I couldn't believe how smart he became in 1 year. And it's exactly, it's exactly what happens. It's my son says that to me sometimes. He says, Dad, where'd you come up with that idea? That's a great idea. I said, stick with me, kid. I'll show you some stuff,
One of the other things that Sean wanted to do, he wanted to finish the room. We just didn't want to come into the storage area in the basement. So we actually, if you close this. So we actually finished the room. So, we've got, a ceiling, we finished the ceiling. I guess I could rotate.
So you guys went from scratch all the way to.
So, we finished the room. And if Sean steps out of the way, we had a backup sump pump battery that we hid behind a high voltage box. I don't know if you can.
No, you can't really quite see that to actually pick it up.
Oh, there it is.
You can't really get in there.
Oh no, that's cool. You even got the ceiling painted blue with sky and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to remember which light. Which is it?
Oh, we even have a moon. We added a moon. There, you can see the.
Oh, right in the back. Very cool. Very cool. You guys really thought of everything.
Yeah.
It's
Another idea Sean wanted to have an emergency stop button. So in the power supplies, we did add some emergency
if you have one
stop.
train derail, you
yes,
stop everything.
right, exactly. That's good move, Sean. Good move.
Because I've done that when I was playing on train tables before. You have one derail, and if you're not fast enough to catch the next one, you got even more stuff. Then scenery gets broken. And
Yeah.
so,
What, Sean, for you, what's the biggest takeaway from doing this layout for you?
well, I think besides getting to spend more time with my dad and work on that, it was just a lot of fun. Like, because I like to do a lot of modeling. Like, I used to play, or I still play Warhammer and stuff. So I was used to doing a lot of the scenery and whatnot. But this kind of took me going and looking at different things because that stuff you don't light up.
Right.
So I looked found this company.
Oh, Miller Lights, Miller Engineering.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah, they have some pretty cool stuff.
They have so you can make your own neon lights.
Yes.
We didn't make any ourselves. We bought some of their.
I do still want to get some to try. I want to try to make a couple, and then maybe incorporate it in. After I have figured out how to do it. But
so your biggest takeaway is is being adventurous and innovative and seeing what you can test your limits on.
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of stuff with the computer side, doing a lot of programming, trying to look at some of the Arduino, trying to because I've seen a couple different models that I really liked of the train tables where people have made little scenes.
Yes.
Get it on the table. And I was like, well, if you could set up a bunch of little lights and you could actually have the scene play out if you programmed it.
Sure, absolutely. A lot of these guys that are on the live show are, in the Q&A, their layouts either in the starting stage or finishing stage, and they're pretty intricate and pretty. If you can think about it, you can do it.
Yeah. Once I found this German company where you can actually get cars that come around the track, and I was like, wow, that's really neat. But I was like, that's way too expensive, and it's like building another railroad on top.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bernard C says that since you guys are working together and enjoying your time, he says building a lifetime of memories is priceless.
Oh, thanks.
It is absolutely priceless, and it's good. And you guys don't get into any serious arguments where you're throwing a hammer at each other.
2 years ago, we had some we got into some arguments, coming up with a track plan.
Yeah.
And then trying to figure out a layout. I wouldn't say there were fights, but we definitely argued over how we should do different things, for sure.
Yeah. Don't come back here until you apologize. You understand? Then in the middle of the week, you call. Your mother would like you over for Sunday dinner. You think you can make it? Yeah, I'll come. We'll talk about that little skirmish we had. Yeah. But it's all literally water under the bridge. I'm really glad. When I first saw this on Facebook, what group are you on at Facebook? Are you in several model railroading groups on Facebook, or is there one particular?
I posted stuff in the model railroading.
Right. Okay.
They have several.
Yeah. When I first saw it, I was totally taken back by it because it really was impressive. It just, and then when I saw that little video of yours, and then I reached out to you and you got back to me and you were telling me, oh, this is really genuinely first one we're doing. And I was like, my goodness gracious, this is really intricate and really, in depth. So, and stuff like that. So it was, I was glad that you were able to come on and willing to share it.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
Oh.
I was glad that my son was able to come in.
Yeah, so are we. We've had a couple of father sons on the show. Don Don G and his father doing the historical, railroad. Who else did we have? We had two more that were on, and it always, the endeavor was always worth it. So I'm glad that you two guys are, going through it and enjoying it as much as putting up. And when you guys get track laid and it's all electrified and we're running trains, we definitely have to have you guys back on.
I'll keep you posted, Bill.
Oh yeah. I got your number in my speed dial model railroading. Might just call you up and just say, I ain't got a guest for next week. You want to come back on?
Okay. I'd be glad to.
Maybe we'll even have a YouTube site up here. So
yeah, I would strongly recommend getting that. If it was me and I was doing this, I'd do an overall in the beginning, the first couple of videos, just explaining the who, what, where, and when, and then get into the day-to-day, operations. Trust me when I tell you, when you get into YouTubing, it becomes a job. So I used to post like every week, and then it was like,
Bernard C. asked a question.
Yeah, Bernard C. asked, did they use a track planner app or program, or did they shoot from the hip?
We shot from the hip.
Oh, yeah. Show them the board that you use, the old-fashioned. Check this out, Bernard.
So, put it up here closer. So the yellow track was the low level. The pink track is the high level HO. The blue is the N gauge in the back. And there's some spotted track that's pink and yellow, and that's ramps. There's 2 ramps connecting the HO, high level, and low level.
And what
different directions?
And what are all the markings on it? Is that the?
I use that. There's some of the marking. I use that to do the. The track. What do you call it? Occupancy detection.
Oh, okay.
Some of the track up into sections.
Oh, all right, great.
For the power management systems that Digitrax has, and then we put some roads, some buildings on there to see how things would fit.
Is your Dave? How is your wife? Does she like this?
No.
It means he's not remodeling another bathroom.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I did was, because I used 2x4s for the post, I even had had to make a plan for the legs.
Oh, wow.
Concrete floor.
You guys really thought of everything. I mean, really. What is your wife's too much time in the basement, or?
Oh, she's I'm retired. She still works. She works for the Timken company. They make bearings.
Right.
So she works part-time right now.
But like I was saying, she's always trying to get him to remodel something. So, like, as far as I remember, it's like one room to a next room to a bathroom to.
Yeah, since we've remodeled the inside, we've rebuilt the inside of our house. So it's nice to get away from projects that others want to do something. Well, I want.
My wife she wanted the kitchen remodeled, and I kept saying yes, okay, not a problem. And then we had a water cooler, and it overheated and it caught fire. So no structural damage. It was a small fire. But I told my wife, get the fire extinguisher off the wall. So she grabbed the extinguisher, but she didn't snap the snap. So she literally grabbed it and she pulled it off the wall, literally, and taking the sheetrock down with that. So as the flames are licking, I'm like holding the sheetrock, and I'm like, how did you do that? And then after the fire was extinguished, she said to me, so I guess now we can remodel the kitchen? I said, yeah, that's how you did it. Bernard C says, "Oh Lordy boy, there was some thinking and planning done there. Very nice. You two guys did an amazing job. Congratulations." Yeah, it was. Listen, guys, I just want to thank you very much for being a part of this show. It's what makes meeting new modelers and seeing what their kind of work they're doing and stuff. I know for the guys on the Q&A, it's just as fun. And this was really an impressive start on a layout. And I personally cannot wait till the track is down and you guys are running trains. We definitely want to have you back when they're up and running. And Dave, please keep me informed of how progress is going. And Sean, kudos to you with all the ideas you're doing and wanting to implement. It's really going to be a fascinating story to tell, because each little vignette that you make, it's what it is. It's a story, and you can make it up as you want, and that's what's most exciting about it. It will be so real that people would be like, do those people actually exist? Does that building actually exist?
That's part of the fun.
It's the storytelling.
Yeah.
Look at a lot of guys on here, that they make stories and they tell you stories, and especially like Nearly Historical Railroad, for each section of every town, because it's based on it's based in Nevada, and he talks about one section at a time. The mining town, you actually think there's such a place, so that's what makes it interesting. On my South Brooklyn Railroad, I used to have the O'Shea's Junkyard, and it had an actual story about how Jack O'Shea came from Ireland and he had no money, and he started collecting junk on the streets of New York City in Lower Manhattan in the ghetto, and he built upon that, and it became like people would ask about the O'Shea Junkyard. How's the business, And he had his own motto: one man's junk is another man's gold. So, and stuff like that. So it's intriguing. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of this and, coming along out of your busy schedule and stuff. So thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you so much, Bill, for having us.
Oh, no problem. No problem. No problem. So now this is the deal. When you guys put your YouTube channel together, okay, and you reach 1.5 million subscribers, okay, and you reach that pinnacle of success, do not forget where you first were on, okay? Let's say we want to shout out to Big Bill on who's Big Bill talking to, because we got our start with him. We want to thank him. That's it. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. So with that said, thank you guys very, very much for being a part of this. I want to thank you guys out there in the computer land, wherever land you're living in. Thank you for being a part of this, because like I said, every week we're on. If you ain't there, I'm just talking to dead air. So you guys be well, you be safe, and you be blessed, and I'll see you on the radio.